Thanks for coming, and we'll talk about creating custom Navigator maps. Who here has Navigator within their organization? A few of you, yeah, okay. And obviously, there's some interest in creating custom Navigator maps. So that's one of the biggest benefits of Esri's navigation map. It allows you to create your organization's authoritative GIS content. So today, I'll do a little intro, go through slides, pass it off to Mark. He's going to do a demonstration. We'll kind of jump back and forth as we go through some concepts today.
Yeah, I'd like to really have a conversation. You know, we're at a conference, and I've been at Esri for a long time, and I remember back in the old days, a lot more interactive, we've kind of gotten into this presentation format, and I'd really like to learn from you as well as you learning from us. So it'd be good to hear what your challenges are and how this can help. Yeah.
So we'll talk about what a Navigator map is, how to customize the Esri Navigator map, how to customize the Esri Navigator map if you want to add your own custom roads. And the difference between the two is subtle, but it's an important consideration, whether or not you want the custom roads part of it. And then also creating a custom Navigator map with all your own data. The difference there being, do you want to customize the Esri navigation map or bring all your own data? BYOD, bring your own data. Different options. So before we bore you to death with slides, let's just jump right into it and show you what a custom Navigator map looks like.
All right, thanks Scott. We're number 3. All right. So what I have here is I've got maps on my device, and all of these happen to be custom maps. And for today's demonstration, I'm going to take on the role of being someone working in the oil and gas industry and wanting to be able to create maps and navigate to locations out in the oil field. So I'm going to start out with this custom map that I've created here, and it is in North Dakota, but it's also clipped out to a specific area of North Dakota, so I'll show you how to clip. We see a bunch of oil wells here, and often many of you will probably be based in an office somewhere, not in the location where you're creating the maps for. So one of the things you'll notice here is I've got a blue dot, and obviously this isn't representative of where we are, but it's really handy for testing maps. So this is kind of our first detour into kind of an advanced non-introduction class or course, conference tech session. I'm using kind of a little developer setting that we have inside of Navigator, and I'm going to show you how that works now. So if I go into settings, and you can see down here at the bottom I have developer settings. The way that you get this developer setting is to tap 5 times on your username, and this will appear down at the bottom. And if I go into the developer settings, you can see that I've got a variety of settings here. I've got show touches, so I can turn that on. When I tap on the screen, I now have touches. So if you're doing a presentation to someone else, this is very handy for them to see where you're touching the map. The next one we have is route simulation. So I've got the route simulation turned on and set to normal. That's the best one to use. There's some fast and slow in there, but normal works the best. So that way you can see it travel the route and hear the voicing that's occurring. And then this one is the location simulation. So this one, I don't really want to change where my location is by using it, but let me just back up 1 second here to go back to the map. What you'll do is click on the map, you'll get a drop pin, tap on it, and then you just copy and paste that coordinate. That's the place that you want the blue dot to be. So you copy that out, go back to those developer settings, and then quick location simulation and paste it in. I don't want to do that now because I want to keep the one I have, but then that's it, and then you'll get the blue dot at your location. So that's kind of the first little tip. So then once you have that blue dot at your location, I've tapped here, I want to navigate. It's going to navigate from my my current location out to the well. And then with Navigator, for those that haven't seen it before, we start navigation. I should, okay.
Go south on 6th Avenue North. northwest toward 59th Street Northwest. In
Right.
0.5 miles, turn right on 59th Street Northwest. In 0.2 miles, turn right on 59th Street Northwest. Turn right on 59th Street Northwest.
Looks like he's cruising along pretty fast.
And you can zoom out while you're going here. And anyway, you can simulate the navigation, see that your routing is working as desired.
Destination in 0.3 miles.
And then you can also know if you've labeled your streets
Destination
properly,
in 500 feet. Destination in 100.
you know, because Navigator,
Drop pin on your right.
you can't interrupt Navigator. It just keeps talking.
Yeah, there's a mute button on the
But
bottom.
yeah, there is a mute button. Thanks, Scott. So, but what we're doing here is, you know, Navigator voices the label that you've defined in the network data set for the streets. So it's very helpful to have streets that have names, and that's often not the case a lot with these gravel roads out in the oil fields. But anyway, we're going to show you how to make this map. Also, you'll notice if we look at this map, you know, I've got roads here, and I've got a lot of oil wells that, you know, there doesn't appear to be any roads going to them. And that's, you know, a little bit of a problem we'd like to take care of. So we're going to show you some ways that you can deal with that. Scott, am I missing anything more to add on the basics of Navigator here?
Search.
Or
Can you-
search?
Can you
Oh,
search
yeah.
for those
Yeah,
oil wells?
absolutely. So we can search for wells, and we can do that by name. So if I start typing in a name like this Beaver Lodge, you'll see the suggestions come up for all the well names that are there. It can be any value that you want to search for. I just chose well names for this one. And you can see I've got a recent one here. I can just go ahead and tap on that, and it'll zoom the map and update to it. And then you just simply tap, and you'll route to that well. And so that's the user experience. And again, all offline. Yes, in the
Is there
front.
a limitation to the number of elements or features to thousands?
Right. So the question is there any limit to the number of, I guess, wells that you have in this map? And really, you're only limited by the size that you can put on your device. So just as an example, a package that I use quite often is the state of California, and that's 2 gigabytes in size, and it's got all the point addresses, all the towns, cities, POIs, parks, churches, a bunch of coffee shops
Yeah,
for the
on and
state
on
of
and on.
California. So it's quite extensive. And the nice thing about locators is that they're designed for large amounts of data so that they behave really quick on the search. They're indexed really well. So when you're going through millions of records, you'll get the searches back right away in the options.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
All right.
Yep. Okay. So, Mark walked us through what a custom Navigator map looks like. We saw how he added assets for display. You know, he had oil wells, but you know, they could have been fire hydrants, they could have been utility poles, whatever it is that your organization manages, for visualization and for searching. So if your organization, you know, you commonly have an asset ID, whatever it is that you want to search off of, you can search off of that. The Navigator map, a custom Navigator map, is created by a GIS professional, GIS analyst in ArcGIS Pro. You need to do this in ArcGIS Pro. You can't create them in ArcMap. And there's 3 components to a Navigator map. And we'll commonly come back to these 3 components. Searching, which require geocoding locators. Routing, which requires a network data set. And then the display component, which is the base map. And then on top of that, you can have your operational layers. And when I say operational layers, I mean more like the asset information that you have, whether, again, it's oil wells, utility poles, picnic benches, hydrants, whatever. And within Pro, you know, these 3 components, it's core functionality. So if you have a locator, it should work in Navigator. If you have a network data set, it should work in Navigator. Same thing with the visualization. There's nothing really special about these 3 components. It's out of the box capabilities and functionality. What you do once you have your Pro project set up, you package it up. And there's a geoprocessing tool Mark will walk us through that packages it up into this file type. It's got an MMPK file extension. It's just a mobile map package file, and it's like a container. And you can transport it, you can share it. We had said that you can customize the Esri Navigator map, or you can bring all your own data. It might not be the case where you have a complete base map, or you have a network data set, but maybe you do want to do the searching component and put your operational layers on top of that. In that case, you can do the hybrid, right? Customize the Esri Navigator map. Kind of up to you which approach that you take. This is just a workflow of what happens. So in ArcGIS Pro, you set up your document, your project, to have those three components. You put your locator or locators in ArcGIS Pro, your network data set, and your map, and package it. Share it. Okay, once you have that package, how do you get that into the access, into the hands of those Navigator users? You need to share it. And you share it to either ArcGIS Online for ArcGIS Online deployments, or if you have the on-premises version of ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise, you can do that too. So you package and share it. Once it's shared, it's available for the Navigator users to just download and go offline with. So to customize the Esri Navigator map, remember we talked about those two, bring your own data or customize the Esri Navigator map. We'll talk about customizing the Esri Navigator map. You download it from ArcGIS Online into Pro, and these are the things that you can do to that map. You can add operational layers, you can add or remove locators, geocoding locators, create a custom travel mode. We didn't really talk too much about a travel mode, but travel mode is a part of the network data set, and it is what allows you to model a specific vehicle type or mode of travel. So if you're moving a 10-ton vehicle, you're going to want to not cross over bridges that can't support that vehicle. Same thing with height, hazmat, turn radius, all types of things. Or if you want to model walking, biking, four-wheel vehicle, etc. You can swap out the network, and then you can clip. So if you download the California map and you only want to clip to your county, you have the flexibility to do that, cut down on file size. And of course, you package that up. So let's see what that looks like. Mark, can you walk us through Pro to...
Yeah, so
Let's see.
number one. All right, so a question right here first.
You mentioned network. Do you have to have a network analyst extension to be able to do it?
So you do have to have the network analyst extension, yes, within ArcGIS Pro.
Yep. All right. So we'll start out in ArcGIS Pro, and what I'm going to do is just kind of go through the basics. There's basically three main ways that we think about creating navigator maps. That's starting out with a navigation map. Then there's another way, which is using Street Map Premium data, and of course, just using your own data if you have it. So in this first step, I'm just going to go with the easy route that I want to create the map that you just saw me demonstrate earlier. And to start with, my data is located in North Dakota, so I want to start by getting a North Dakota map. In ArcGIS Pro, using the catalog pane, this is accessed from the View menu, catalog. For those of you that have used ArcGIS Pro 1.4 and earlier, the catalog pane used to be called the project pane, and that's a change for ArcGIS Pro 2. It's back to being a catalog. So from the catalog pane, I have access to all the things in my project, but I also have access to my portal, or ArcGIS Online in this case. So I'm signed in here to my organization on ArcGIS Online, but I could be signed into a portal as well. The one thing to note about having your own portal, to get navigator maps, there's a little bit of an extra step. As part of the portal deployment, there are instructions for being able to get those navigator maps and populating them on your portal. So going against ArcGIS Online, though, they're all there. So I'll just go ahead and search for a North Dakota navigation map, making sure to spell properly. And hit return, and I'll see all of the content that comes back with that search term. And if I hover over the map, we can see that I've got a North Dakota map here. And if you see the orange icon, the navigator icon on it, that is an immediate tip-off that this is a map provided by Esri that comes with Navigator. So Navigator has a map footprint for the entire world, with the exception, I think, of like China and North Korea, but the rest of the world is covered with some base level navigation. So what I would do here is just right-click, add and open, and that would go out and download North Dakota and add it to my map. Now I've already got North Dakota downloaded. I think that map is around 400 or 500 megabytes, so it takes a little bit of time to download, but I have it here. So here's North Dakota, and one of the things that I'd like to do is add my wells in for the state. And so I can go out and I just have a shapefile here. I go ahead and add that, click OK, and I'll see all of those active wells for North Dakota come into my map. And if I wanted to, I could right now just create a Navigator map just with this well data. But to make it a little better, I'd like to do some cartography and pretty it up. I've already taken the liberty of doing some of that work, so I'm just going to remove this layer and add a layer file that I have already prepared. And click OK, and here you can see I've got it symbolized by well type. I've also got the scale set for when these things should turn on. So as I zoom into my navigation map or my future navigation map, we'll see those wells come on. And then if I zoom in further, I'll see labels for the wells as well. So that's kind of the basics of the map. So one of the things to think about as a cartographer, when I create a navigation map, it's being used for navigation. So typically when people are navigating, they kind of, depending on how long their route is, they're kind of at a level that's kind of out here. So, they're more interested in road names and kind of seeing where the route is. And so with label clash, it's just something you want to be aware of, thinking about when your labels turn on. When's it important for your field worker to turn them on? For this demonstration, I kind of have the labels, you're zoomed in pretty close to see the labels. So that way you still get your road names, when you're zoomed into the map. So just things to consider when you're authoring the map. But at this point, I've got my wells in here. So we want to just kind of keep thinking about those components of the map. The assets that I add to it, I want to make them searchable. Navigator needs to have a locator in it. And otherwise, when you browse for the map in Navigator, it won't display it. So since I've got my oil wells in here and I like the way they look, like the way they're symbolized, let's go and create a locator for them. And to do that, we use analysis tools, the toolbox, the good old toolbox, and that'll give us the geoprocessing pane where we have access to all of our geoprocessing tools. And I've got the create address locator here all ready to go. And you'll choose your address locator type. Navigator supports all of these. Typically with the assets, we have a unique ID, and so a general gazetteer or a single field locator is appropriate for that type of data. So I'll just click on general gazetteer. And for those of you that saw the demonstration or intro session earlier, you'll find this very familiar, but we're just trying to get everyone up to speed. And so I'll pick my reference data, that's the active wells, and I'll choose the search term that I want, that attribute that's going to be the search. And in this case, it's the well name that I want to use. I could use a well number. It's really up to you how you operate, how your workers associate with the asset that they're looking for or working on. And then another thing that I always like to mention is that if I take advantage of the full address, there's a field in here somewhere, flying by it probably. There we go, right here. Thank you. Full address. If I fill in this one, it'll show up on that initial map card as a second line. So this can be anything. When we think about it as a home address, you might put the home address, which is just the house number, and then you have a full address. But I could put anything in here, so any attribute. So for oil wells, I might want to maybe put the field that has the type of well, or maybe some other number that's important to my workers to help them just better understand what they're looking at. But at that point, I just put an output name for my locator, and then I check this box if I want to enable suggestions. That will allow me to see as I type, I'll see things come in. People really like suggestions because the least amount you can type, the better. And so it'll enable suggestions. And then I just tap Run to create this locator. And what that's going to do is it's just going to go through every single feature, get the XY, get my search terminology, build up an index, basically just create a locator that I can then use to search. And that same locator I can use inside of ArcGIS Pro. I could publish it to ArcGIS Online, make a locator service, and just take a few moments. Create address locator is a fast tool. And there, it's done. So once I've got my address locator, I've got my search. My map has a network data set in it. One of the things we should talk about is I've got this base map, and then I've got my active wells as the operational layer, and I've got the routing network data set here that comes as part of the Navigator Maps. So at this point, I'm ready to create a mobile map package. And a mobile map package is the disconnected map for the apps. And just earlier this week, we released Explorer for ArcGIS, and it too reads mobile map packages. So you may find yourself using this tool a bit more in the future. So create mobile map package. Let's take a look at that tool. And I should have had this tool opened up a little bit earlier to save a little time. So what this tool is doing is analyzing all of the layers in my map. And one of the things to note about the Navigator maps in the Street Map Premium data set is there's around 150 some layers in the map because it's built from a world scale down to about 2.5K on all the streets and the roads. So there's a lot of layers to look at. But okay, when the Create Mobile Map Package tool initializes, we get the current map as our input map, and we specify an output map for this. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll just call this ND Wells. And I choose a locator. When I choose the input locator, my geoprocessing tools, they know about all the other geoprocessing tools that I've run as I've built this project. So handily, it puts this address locator that I just created in there, so I can choose that. You'll notice that there's also a USA locator. That's the locator that came as part of the Navigator map. I can repackage that right back into this mobile map package that I'm creating. And so we'll go ahead, choose the Wells locator. For everything that I want searchable, just create a locator and then just add it here. There is a hierarchy to locators. The first one that I put in will be the first one that gets searched, so that result will come back fastest. So if wells are the most important thing, make that first, and then other things in succession down. And you just get better performance, a better user result. Although it's really pretty fast regardless, coming from the local device. So once we've got this in here, we can choose an area of interest. So as I showed earlier, my map was located in really close to this lake area here. And to replicate that, I'll just set it up about like this. And I'll just go in and say use the current display extent. And then I have a choice that I can clip it and get a hard clip, so it's just a square. And that's what I did earlier when I created that map. If I don't use clip, it just kind of does an intersect selection, and you'll get to the complete feature that intersects the frame. It looks a little messier on the edges, but it processes a little faster because all it's doing is selecting the features and copying them over as opposed to selecting them and then clipping them and making new features. So it's just something to know. And then we can title that map. And a good practice is always to title it the same as the package name that you're creating. So I'll just do ND Wells, and we can fill out further metadata. And then I just click Run, and it's going to take this data and package the map, all of it, into that map that we saw earlier. So let's just switch over to Navigator. I'm not going to actually run it because this is a process that takes time. It's a matter of minutes. It can be a matter of hours, depending on how large your area is and how much data you're packaging. But if we switch back over to Navigator, just to refresh our memories with this map, we can see that we've got our wells in here. I'm going to go ahead and search for this Beaver Lodge well. And we'll click on that, and we've already seen how the navigation works where I route to it. But what I wanted to point out here is that, this Beaver Lodge well is a ways away from the road. And now for some, that might be good enough, depending on what your operation is. But I happen to know that there are actual roads that go to these wells. So what I'd like to do is put those roads into the map. And are we ready for that at this stage, or are there slides?
Let's just kind of recap a little bit.
Recap a little bit, all right.
Yeah. I think it might be good to kind of just pause and go through what we saw in that first demonstration. Okay. So Mark downloaded the North Dakota map from ArcGIS Online, and he was able to do that and open it up in Pro because he had the StreetMap Premium license. Remember, again, to use that content in ArcGIS Pro requires a StreetMap Premium license to use it in Pro. So once he opened that map, what did he do? He added his wells operational layer on top of the base map. He symbolized it with the different scale dependencies when you zoomed in, zoomed out, and then you labeled it too. So you could view those labels. And then you created a locator mark. Remember, you created it off of that asset ID, and so that when you search with suggestions, that's what's available. And when you went to create the map package, you can clip it and select that area of interest. One thing that I don't know if we showed or you mentioned, but there is a share geoprocessing tool.
Oh, right. I forgot about the share tool. I got kind of excited about that. Okay. But geoprocessing tool is just share package. It's a tool that you use anytime you share a mobile map package or just a map package. And all it does is upload the data to the portal that you're signed into, whether it be ArcGIS Online or a portal. Really, really easy. Just pick file, upload.
Yep. So that whole demonstration we just saw, that was customizing the Esri Navigator map using StreetMap Premium for ArcGIS Pro. If you need to do what we just saw, plus this added capability of routing seamlessly between streets that you manage and maintain and the Esri street network, you need to access and start with StreetMap Premium Custom Roads. And StreetMap Premium Custom Roads is it's just a different deliverable. It's a file geodatabase that we give you. And within there, it's got some empty data layers, an empty streets layer that you put your own custom roads into. So you can digitize them in, populate the network data set attributes, build the network, and then package. So it's just one added capability. And if you require to digitize in new roads, route seamlessly between your own managed roads, you need StreetMap Premium Custom Roads. So I think that's what we were going to to show next.
Yeah.
Is StreetMap Premium Custom, is that included with the enterprise license, or is that still an additional?
Is StreetMap Premium Custom Roads included with your enterprise license? It will depend. I think each enterprise license is a little bit different. Most commonly, I think you would have to be explicitly say, I want to add this to that ELA.
Okay.
Sure. Can we go back a couple slides? Okay. So you need ArcGIS Desktop, meaning Pro, yep. And you need, within Pro, the Network Analyst extension. And then if you want to customize the Esri navigation map, you need one of these two flavors of StreetMap Premium.
Oh, don't say flavors, it's the deliverables, right?
Yeah, you need StreetMap Premium, whether it's the version that you get from ArcGIS Online or whether it's the file geodatabase that we ship to you. Correct. The first exercise that we just went through, you do need StreetMap Premium for ArcGIS Pro. Yep. Okay. So so we're going to go through an
Yeah.
example now using
Street Map Premium.
Street Map Premium and the custom roads.
Number one.
Number one.
Okay, so what I have here is the custom roads project for ArcGIS Pro that you'll get when you have the Street Map Premium license. So basically, Street Map Premium comes in regions. I believe it's 5 regions for the world. And you just tell Esri what region you want. And in this case, I want to make a map of North Dakota, but I get all of North America as a deliverable to work with. So when I get this project, I'll notice I have all of North America, and I've got this navigation map. If we go over to our catalog pane and we take a look at the maps in this project, you'll see that there are also 2 base maps in here. There's a navigation night and navigation day, and those are accessible from the base map gallery. So you're seeing all the base maps for my organization. These are just services. Just as a note, you can't include services in packages. The tool doesn't allow for services. All of the data that you're working with is local that you're going to create and put into the mobile map package. So here we can see that I got navigation night as well as navigation day, base maps that I can choose, and you can just swap those out. So if I switch to navigation night, we'll see that the base map will switch out for this map. And here we see the navigation night. The blue is coming from the canvas color of my project. This is the actual data. And so if you've got people that are working at night, this might be an option to create more of something that's easier on the eyes for using at night. I'm going to go back to the navigation day because I just like seeing the full blue background blended instead of seeing the black cut out. But so that's my base map, and you have both of those come with the project. And then what I like to do is I like to come into my area of interest, say it's North Dakota, South Dakota, let's see, North Dakota, wherever it is in North America. And the first thing that I'll typically do is use the package map command, okay? I hope everybody's familiar with package map. That just takes the map that you're looking at and it makes this MPK or MPKX file for ArcGIS Pro. And what it also has, it has an option to only include data that intersects my view. The North America data set is really nice, but it's 44 gigabytes. And I kind of like to work at home, maybe put it on my laptop and go do some work. So I want to make a smaller data set to build my mobile map packages out. And since I'm working in North Dakota, I'd make a smaller just package of this map to then create mobile map packages out of after. So when you package the map, it'll take the network data set and all the data and put it into the map, and I use that intersect option of that tool to only include a subset of the data to work with, and that works perfectly fine. So you'll get a nice smaller package to work with this data set. So at that point, I come into the custom roads package, I come into my area, and one of the things that we wanted to solve was that whole idea of having these wells that are out in the middle of the field, but I know that there's roads going to them. So what I want to do is use a bookmark to get to a pre-planned area here, and let's go ahead and add in those wells. Oops, of course it zooms to the extent, so we'll go back to our bookmark. And we can see here that I've got some wells that are in the middle of this field, and the roads are kind of going around the outside. So what I'd like to do is look at this same area in this other map called Add Custom Streets. That's where we'll do our work for adding in new roads. I'm going to click Link View just so that when I click here, we'll be right to that same area. I've already put those wells in, and I've symbolized them so we can see them better against the imagery in the background. So in this exercise, I'm using the imagery to know where those roads are. And we can see here that we've got a few wells, this BLS wells, and there is a road that goes to them here. And so I'd like to put that road in to the network data set and make use of it.
Yeah. So maybe, so Mark, there's 2 maps with this project?
Yes.
Right?
Yep. There's
One
2
is
maps.
one is used for packaging and one is used for digitizing, is that right?
Right. So this is the map that you ultimately package. This is the map that you'll use to update the network. And you can see that it's significantly smaller in size with the number of layers. It just has the features, my operational layer, and then the features that are participating in that network data set. So if we take a look at that, we've got some custom override points, we've got custom streets and the routing streets. The project comes, the custom streets feature class is empty. That's the one that we will put our roads into. The way that network data sets work is that they're all rule-based, and it's based on connectivity and intersect rules. And with our network data set here, if I want to go from one feature class to another feature class, which is what the custom streets feature class is, so these two feature classes, the rules of the network say that there needs to be a vertice on the routing streets, there needs to be a custom override on that vertice, and then I need to connect my custom street at that same location. Then the logic of the network data set will know that I can go from this feature class when I'm building the route to the other feature class.
Yep. And by the way, this is, custom. It's not uncommon. These practices are common across all network data sets. So it's basic network analyst, network data set functionality, connectivity rules of the network data set.
Mm-hmm. So what we've done in the editing template, if I click Edit and I click Create Features, we see all the editable features. And in this template, we've named these Connect Custom Street to Custom Street and Connect Custom Street to Routing Street. And these editing templates have gotten a little bit easier to work with and smarter, maybe, in ArcGIS Pro. And for an example, I know that I'm going to be adding a road to this routing street. So let's just start by doing that. So I'm going to connect a custom street to the routing street. So this is a template. And one of the things that this template will do, as it's defined, it's a common thing is to have a street name, what type of road is it, and what's the speed. So these are all defined within the template, and we've done this for you, for those of you that are doing the custom roads. And these are easily adaptable and changeable to meet your needs. And the thing about templates to say is that if you've got a repetitive thing, like I'm going to be doing a lot of paved 20-mile-per-hour roads, I can preset those, and all I have to do is put a street name in as a digitizer. So I like to have a street name because this is what's going to be voiced. So I'm just going to call this Wellpad Road for the name. I'll hit Enter. And is it paved? In this case, it's not paved, so I'll click No. And I'll leave the kilometer-per-hour speed as is for now. But now, once I have this, I can come into my map to a reasonable area where I can see that road. I hover over my routing street, and I get a snapping. Happens to be a vertex here. Doesn't need to be. It can be anywhere. But I'll go ahead and click on that, and then I'll just start digitizing this road out on my map. And I'm going to bring it all the way down to this well here and bring it onto the pad. And then I'll just finish this route. Now, once it finishes, oops, where is it? I'm having some drawing. All right. So what's happening here is there's some, kind of a little bit of a defect. My street is not drawing right now, and it should be. I'm just going to go ahead and save this edit and see if that'll help bring it back. There we go. And then I'll clear this. And we can see that I've got the label for my Wellpad Road. It's also put in this custom override and the vertice and connected my road to that routing street.
So the editing template automatically did that for you.
So that's a new thing. So for those of you that have done network data sets in the past, you would have had to manually put in the vertice and put the override in and then snap your line to it. Now with ArcGIS Pro and this group template, it'll automatically do all of those actions because it's aware of the rules of the network data set. So it significantly improves the process of editing this. And here I've brought it into the Wellpad. So the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to stub out this other Wellpad too, because again, we're making a Navigator map, and I want Navigator to tell my drivers to turn right, turn left. If I didn't put anything in here, it would just end right at this road. They might still be a little confused when they're out in the field because there's another driveway up here, there's one here, am I at the right place? So I'll go ahead and add in a custom street to custom street. And again, Wellpad Road. For this one, I might put in the name of the well, just a little added extra, information for the driver. So Navigator would voice turn right BLSUE 406. So, and it's not paved, so we'll click no. And maybe at the well pad road, I'd say like 5 or something, although that's not that important because they basically have arrived at their destination. But I'll go ahead and snap to that road that I just put in and just stub this out. Now click finish. And when I do that, again, of course, we're having this little drawing issue here. Let me save that and zoom a little more. And in this case, we see that when I've attached that road, it actually split that custom street because custom streets connect at endpoints. That's the rule of a custom street. So it's just splitting the 2 lines automatically for me and connecting.
Another thing that's
very
really
handy thing.
Pro editing templates.
Yeah.
Can't do that in ArcMap.
All right. So once I've got this, I save my edits, and I could stub out other streets. And of course, there's a lot of roads to digitize here. But I'll go back out and update my network. So I'm going to build the network, basically tell the network, hey, there's these new features, add these into the network data set. I'll use a geoprocessing tool to do that. So we'll open another tool, and we'll build the network. And choose our routing network data set. We'll just click run.
So Mark, when you build it, does it build the whole network?
No, Scott, it doesn't build the whole network. So what it's going to do is it knows where the dirty areas are, the extents where features have been edited, and it will only build that section of the map. Now, this is another thing that's helpful though too, cutting down your package size that you're working with, and kind of doing this often, not waiting, like don't edit for like 8 or 9 hours or maybe a week and then decide, oh, I'm going to build my network now, because you'll be waiting for a while for it to go through and do all those updates. If you kind of build as you go, it's kind of more enjoyable. Okay, so the question I believe was, you have your own roads and you want to import them into the map, right? So what I'm not going to demonstrate that functionality here, but that's a good opportunity to talk about it. So what you would do if you had your own roads, you would append them to the custom streets feature class using the append tool. And that's a geoprocessing tool. The append tool has options for matching attributes, right? So most likely your attributes aren't going to match the custom streets attributes. So you need to do some field mapping, picking the attributes they want and where they would go into the custom streets. So that's the first step. So you run the append, those roads get loaded into custom streets. Then you have to go and manually look everywhere that those roads need to connect. Now, some road networks are really suitable to that. I've seen some oil field data where there's basically 2 roads coming off Roudham streets into this oil field that's just a maze of private roads. That one's a fairly easy one to manage. Just append that in and you make a couple connections to the routing streets, and that's how you get into the oil field. Now this North Dakota data set, since North Dakota, the public roads are this square grid of gravel roads maintained by the state, a lot of the oil pad roads are just stubs off that road. That's kind of like how am I going to deal with this sort of thing? So you kind of weigh it out. It might be easier just to buckle down and just digitize them in off the thing. Okay. Okay.
So instead of using the routing street, I have, where I work, I have a whole comprehensive database of all the routes.
Okay.
So can I use that as my base routing?
Right. So in the discussion we're having here is that she has said that she's got all of her own roads. She's got her roads plus all of the county roads in one database. And can I use those? And yes, you can. That's the build your own network data set out of that and use your own. That's that example.
Yeah.
So that's always an option too if you have everything. So I've just built this network data set. The next thing that I want to show here is routing, testing it, basically make sure that it works. So to do that, we use another analysis tool, and it's the network analyst tool. I know we're running out of time here, so let's get a move on. So I'm going to add in this routing layer. When does the session end, Scott?
2:45.
45?
We got about a half hour more.
All right, half hour. All right. So what we're going to do here, I've added in this routing layer. I did that through the analysis tools, network analysis button. That's where our routing tools are. Mention here that the network that you're going to be using is listed here in the map. Sometimes, you might have a network routing service coming from your organization, so you just want to double check, make sure you're using the one in the map and not the one from your org. But anyway, we come in here, and I just want to add some stops in to test this. So I'm going to edit, do create features, and I'm going to add a stop to the routing streets, and I'm going to add a stop to my custom street here. And I'm going to make sure that I can route to those. So then I'm going to go ahead, click Route, and click Run. And as we can see, this updates and it shows me a route. I'll also see in my directions here exactly what I'd get in Navigator too. So turn northwest toward my well road name, and you see well pad road, and that's what would get voiced in Navigator when we do this too. So that's working well and working great. So another thing that I'd like to demonstrate here, and this one is a little bit hokey in the demo, but I'm going to just make a decree that I don't want any heavy trucks driving to this well over here because this is a wet spot and I don't want them getting stuck. So I'm going to just decide, you know what, if you got a heavy truck, don't go down this road, and I'm going to use a travel mode to accomplish that. So let's take a look at travel modes. Travel modes are properties of the network data set. So if I right-click on the network data set and go to the properties to view, I can see here that I've got a variety of properties, but I've got travel modes here. And if we look at this drop-down, these are all the travel modes that are part of the Street Map Premium data set and the Navigator maps. Now, I can choose some of these and modify them to meet my needs, or I can add a completely new one in. And I'd like to add a new one. So I'm going to just click over here on this menu and say New. And I'm going to write a new one, and basically for 5-ton trucks. So I'll just do tons, 5, and I'll leave it at that. And I can put a description in, which is, use this travel mode if your truck weighs 5 or more tons. Now, how many of your drivers are actually going to go and switch the travel mode to match the truck that they're driving in, right? Some will, some might not. If you don't want to take a chance, you can remove all the other travel modes. And you give this map to the guy that drives the 5-ton or the woman that drives a 5, 6-ton, 7-ton truck to make sure that they're traveling with the rules that you want. And since it's a truck, I'm going to take a shortcut here and take advantage of the types trucking. This will pre-populate with the basic normal trucking instructions. And if I come into the restrictions and parameters, we can see all of the things that I can apply to this travel mode. And the one that I'm particularly interested in is the weight. So if I go down to the bottom here, they got weight restrictions by axle, they've got width restrictions, and there's height restrictions in here too, we can see up here. So I'm going to put a weight restriction in, and I can choose a value for like what kind of restriction is it. I'm going to prohibit it, but just to see the options, you can make them avoid locations. Sometimes there's only one way to get there and there isn't really any avoiding it. But if there were multiple ways to get to a location, you can kind of encourage the truck not to take that by avoiding. And then you can prefer certain routes too for certain vehicles. So I'm going to prohibit this one, and then I just need to put the weight in. The network data set is all in metric, so it's not in a US-based measurement system. So in this case, it's kilograms, so I'm going to go with 4,500 kilograms, which is roughly what I want. And I'll just hit enter on that to take that in. And let's see, and then click OK. And that will update my, well, it doesn't update the network data set yet. It just updated the properties. So again, I need to build this network data set. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. The geoprocessing tool, just do build network. And click on that, click run. And it's really fast because there weren't any features, it just was a little property. So it updated that network. Now if we go back to my routing layer here, and pros context sensitive, so I click on the layer, that gives me the route tab, and I see here the driving times. And if I go down here, I see tons 5 as a travel mode that's been added. So I can click on that travel mode, and now this time when I run, oops, hold on a second, I gotta do one more thing. I gotta tell this road what weight is restricted, so let me go back and do that. So again, so that property I said is gonna work off an attribute of my feature. So I'm gonna select this road, and I'm gonna take a look at the attributes for it. And if we scroll down here through the attributes, we see all these attributes can play a part in your travel modes. So we've got restrictions for type of vehicle, and as we scroll down, we start to see height, and then we see weight. And so what we want to do here is put in the value, which is basically the weight that's allowable for this road. And now I'm having a little bit of a think here. So I think I want to go a little bit lower than the weight. So I set mine at 4,500.
Yep.
So I want to do something like 44.99 or so. So I'll just do 4,400 for the attribute here.
So any vehicle that weighs more than,
Yeah, so any vehicle that
44.
weighs more than this, the travel mode is telling the network how much I weigh. And so this is going to say that if you're over 4,400 pounds, you can't go on this road. And my truck is 4,500, so we'll just do 4,400 for both of these. The FT and TF is the two from, that's the direction of the line. So you might have a situation where they can go uphill, but you don't want them taking heavy loads downhill, so you could have different weights, in that scenario. But in this case, it's the same way for both. So we'll enter that in, and we'll go ahead, save those edits. And then we'll go back and build that network data set again. So again, you'll be bouncing between these tools a lot, but we'll go ahead, run that to update the network data set. Since I touched a feature, it's a little bit more of a process to run that. Could run a little faster than this, Scott. Maybe we should talk to somebody.
have you guys worked with network data sets?
Let's get a few
Yeah.
right there.
Do you have a question?
I was just wondering, does Navigator have the ability to track the vehicle?
Does Navigator have tracking? It does not. It does not have tracking. Kind of the strategy we've taken with our apps for the field is each app does something unique, specializes in it, and they work together. The field app that does tracking is Workforce.
Yeah, but it does not work offline.
The tracking for Workforce does not work offline.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We inventory all the outdoor advertising in the state of Illinois. Similar to the wells, kind of. We have 15,000 signs, navigating students. We don't have a way to, through PSRI, track those vehicles and the routes
Yeah,
for billing purposes later.
yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we could catch
So
up
the
after
comment
that.
was about tracking for billing. For the people watching online, and this is being streamed, and the recording. The discussion was a little bit about just tracking and keeping track of where vehicles are. Navigator doesn't do that. Okay. All right, so my network has completed building, and we can now go back and test with that travel mode, and we'll run this route. And it will go through, do the solve. And as you can see here, let me clear that selection so we can see a little better. We'll see that won't allow me to use this road. So as close as it can get is here. So now if you look at this data, and I kind of intentionally did this, when you have a travel mode or in Navigator in general, it's going to try to get as close as it can. So if I had this stop, say out here at this well, this line would actually go to here because it's going to try to get as close as it can to there. So that's just something to be aware of as a general thing with the routing. It's going to try to get as close as it can. So if I didn't want to, really was doing this for real, I'd probably set this whole thing as not allowing heavy trucks so that they wouldn't even turn down this road at all. Question over here on the left.
Is there a way to put a reminder or a notification on a route? So like if you're going to go on this particular well pad road, the landowner wants you to call him 24 hours ahead of time or give you a notice so that you know that the driver knows that he's going to go in there.
Right.
That's a good enhancement request. So you want the ability to kind of have a note or a comment when that route is calculated or returned. It's not a feature that we have today.
Right. So the question from the audience was really about having notifications appear on the screen while you're driving about giving landowner notice, and that's not currently possible in the setup for this.
That would typically be preferable beforehand. You could plan the route out and see the route ahead of time.
Yep. All right. So that's the example of travel modes, and we can just flip over quickly to Navigator, which is number 3. And if I do a search and clear that search, and we'll go for that same well. And if I look in here, I can see the road digitized. I kind of did this ahead of time, so it's not the exact road. But if I write route to it, we'll get a route that takes me to this well that we see, or that we saw previously. I think I chose the wrong one. I want to go to 405A. So let me clear that and search for 405A and route to it. And we see there that we can route directly to that route. When I click down to the bottom and I set my travel mode to the 5-ton truck, it'll reroute. And we see that again, it's going to that road just short of there. So that's just, for the demonstration purposes, how you get to the travel modes within the application, but honors it once packaged. And
Okay.
that kind of completes this section.
Completes that section. Great. So let's recap. What did we see Mark do? So he started out with a StreetMap Premium Custom Roads file geodatabase within Pro. And we saw how he used the APRX, that Pro document, with the editing templates to populate the custom roads feature class. And he did that. He created a custom travel mode. He tested, he rebuilt, validated that his custom streets were working right, packaged it up, and we used it in Navigator. Same thing that we saw in that first demonstration. Remember when he did the custom display and the custom locators? You could do those same capabilities within that second demonstration as well. So we talked about, remember, customizing the Esri Navigator map. We just saw customizing the Esri map with custom roads. Well, what if you have all your own data? You can also bring your own data, use all your data completely. That's a completely valid workflow. Very similar thing. In Pro, make sure that you have your base map. Make sure you have your geocoding locators. Make sure your network data set for routing is all set up. And just test it out. QA, QC, route it, geocode it. Make sure it works in the Pro environment. If it works in Pro, if you can geocode in Pro, if you can route in Pro, you should be able to package it up and use it in Navigator. Once you package it, share it, and then the Navigator users can access that. And Mark's going to show us what, it's very similar, but creating a map from all your own data.
Yeah, so we'll just take a look at a little example here using the same area, but in this case, I'm not using any of the StreetMap Premium data. What I have is some of the USGS data, quad map data, And as I zoom in Pro, we see that displaying on the screen. Come on, Pro, let's get the labels going. All right, and so you see I've just got a bunch of contour lines in here. I've got my oil wells, and I've got basically tiger line data with the roads symbolized in a different way to my style and liking. And we see all of that here. And we can see here that I don't have really detailed roads in this data set either. A lot of these wells are off out in the field, but I do have some terrain added in, which gives me an idea for the elevations that one might traverse to get to them. But anyway, basically, I just have all of my data here in a map. I've got a base map. It's got my roads in it, elevation contours, and I've got a network data set. And again, it's just the same process. Create an address locator for my wells. I've got my network data set. I've got the map visualized the way I like it. And again, I go and create the mobile map package. And I'm going to just go one step further in the create mobile map package part. You can see here I've got some extra data in here for the federal lands. And I've got some overruns. I've got my wells that are outside the area. And actually, when I created that locator, it was a locator for all of the wells. When I use the Create Mobile Map Package tool, I can use the Clip Features option. And when let's put an output file name here too, ND wells. I can clip features right here, and I can choose a layer to clip with. And I actually have this clip poly layer in my map, so I can click on that. And if I click on that layer, we can see here it's this box. So I can actually just create a map that is just that box of information. It also clips the locator. So the resulting locator will only include the wells that are within this box. So that way users won't put in a well that's not on the map. I can ensure that there's only going to find stuff that are on the map. So go through that same process we've seen before, create the mobile map package, share it to ArcGIS Online, and we take a look at it in Navigator. So if I clear that previous route from that map, go over to the maps on my device, I can see here that I have this other one, use your own, and we'll open up that map and see it here. And then I can come into it, and we see the map here. I can go ahead. Now, I don't have a blue dot for this area because this map wasn't in the same location of my developer setting blue dot. But I can still just tap on the map to test it by clicking there and maybe drop another pin here, hit route, and we see that route come in. Now, you'll notice it's 0.7 miles, and it's going to take 0 minutes to get there. This one is a really simple network. All I did was take some dumb features and just built network data set. So it's not very smart at all. But you can see here, we got turn directions. I've got no street names. They're blank. So it's not a great network, but it's an example that it is truly one that I created myself. And with that, I want to do one more additional thing. And earlier this week, we released Explorer for ArcGIS. And with this release, it supports mobile map packages too. So I've got that same use my own mobile map package in here. So another thing that Explorer has, and it could be a potential solution to not having a road, is that Explorer has a compass feature. So I've got some wells out here, my truck's here. I can tap the map on the wells, and I can click compass, and it's going to draw a line to those wells. And then what if I was really there in the field, as I held the phone, it would rotate and orient me, and my phone would basically point to the wells that are out in the field. We've had some requests from people working in the power line industry where the lines are out running through a field and they got to get to a certain pole, and they pull up on the truck and it's like, well, it's that one or it's that one. And this could be something that would help a little bit in figuring out which one to go to. So that sort of thing. So again, mobile map packages, they're a great disconnected map, and something you should give a try. Yes, question?
If we were going to use our own data, is there a way to automate the processes of turning things on and off, for example, if we had construction road closures?
Okay, so the question is about having your own network data set, your own map, and you want to, you have road closures occurring, which would be in the network data set world, those would be barriers, and you would want to add barriers or remove barriers from the network data set in an automated fashion. Scott?
Yeah.
Is that something that's capable in the network analyst?
Today, Navigator doesn't support barriers.
But if you were to regenerate the maps with those
If you were to generate the
barriers,
map
though.
with barriers, I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know if barriers would come across in the MMPK.
Okay.
Do you know?
That's something we'll need to investigate.
Yeah, we can follow up with you on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, question on the left.
What about seasonal restrictions? Hunting seasons, rutting seasons, maybe people are not supposed to be in certain areas. Maybe you put those in, where you have a weight limit restriction, and you have a calendar restriction.
Right.
So the question is about doing time-based restrictions based on the time of year or date. Could we have different routing rules? That's not currently part of the network data sets, but it's a great suggestion.
What you can do though is create a map for
Right.
a hunting map for winter. Create a winter map, create a spring map,
Right.
turn them on and off accordingly.
Yeah, so it'd be basically a map for every season.
Yeah. Another question?
How do you use geolocators that are already in your enterprise database?
How do you use geocoding locators already in your enterprise geodatabase?
You're saying
Yep.
the geolocator has to be in that package itself.
Yep.
Can you import them from SDE?
You can. In that create mobile map package tool,
Yeah, we can switch over
number
to
4.
that.
Whoops,
So
number 1.
one. All right, at the input locator, you can see that we've got this add data button here. And I can just browse for locators that I already have and just add them in if I've created them
Can live
previously.
anywhere. You can browse to any
So-
locator.
Yep.
Another question? Yes, the app can open from Workforce, definitely. It supports integration with Collector, Explorer, Workforce. Have that seamless experience where you call one out from each other. When you've arrived at that destination, it goes back to
Yeah, so just as
the origination app.
example. Yeah, we showed this in the intro demonstration, but I can click on here and just drop a pin. If I click directions, it'll show me all of the applications that I can shell out to. So we can even go out to Apple, Google Maps, and Waze for directions too if we have an internet connection. So I'll click over to Navigator, and it'll just open up Navigator. That gives me a route error because I probably chose a location that was too far away from the network. But
Workforce does the same thing.
but you can do it from Workforce too. All of the apps can communicate and send information to the other apps where it's appropriate.
Yep.
So you click the point too far away from the network. Is there a threshold?
Yeah, well, actually, what it could have been is, I clipped this, so the road might be going, like to get there, there might not be a way to get there because I clipped off a road.
It's an island.
Yeah, and that created an island. So,
But to answer your question, the threshold, like almost like a snapping tolerance of the stops, it's pretty big.
Within Navigator, we're really generous. Like, it'll basically halfway across the country, it'll try to just find the edge of the network to connect to. Now, that's a little different than what ArcGIS Pro does. I mean, you can control that tolerance, but in Pro, I think it's maybe a quarter of a mile or so that it'll either succeed or fail to do the route. But in Navigator, we're generous.
Yep. I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Uh,
How do you import?
So you're getting back. I've made my smaller map package from the Street Map Premium data, and then how do I use that? Yeah. So what you'll do in ArcGIS Pro is we have this Insert tab and Import Map, and Import Map takes a variety of formats. So there's MapX files, the MMPKs, all the package types can be imported into Pro, and then you just repackage it as a mobile map package.
Was your question
Is that
about
the
how do you
question?
open up the map in Explorer? How do you open up a map package in Explorer?
Map packages do not open up in Explorer. It's mobile map packages.
Oh, a mobile map package. Yep.
Yeah, it's the same way that you would in Navigator. So if I switch back over and I just go out to my maps, I've got my browse experience. I just search for them, and we can open them up. So I search, it's
Same
going to show me
experience.
all the maps.
Is it upstairs on portal or on this online?
Yep, the maps are on ArcGIS Online or on your portal. Again, just like Navigator, you're signed in to a portal or online. There is a sideload option to all the applications too. So if you want to go directly from your computer to the device, you can do that. We call it sideloading. And on iOS, you do it via iTunes. There's a methodology for just copying the mobile map packages onto Explorer folder on the device. And then Explorer basically shows every mobile map package that's in that folder.
Yep.
And the other apps do this as well. Explorer, Navigator,
Yeah.
it's the same. And on Android, it's the same thing. If you've got a folder, the Explorer folder or the Navigator folder, and you've got maps in there, those will be displayed.
Can you use the same mobile map application collector and survey app?
Okay, so the question is about using the same mobile map package. Where can it be used? Right now, mobile map packages are only supported in Explorer and Navigator. Survey 123 is a web-based mapping system, so it's web maps in Survey 123. Collector is a web maps as well. It does have some offline mapping, but it's not a mobile map package. It's a different process for that. But I think we can kind of look towards the future, and we'll start seeing mobile map packages show up in the other apps as well as an offline solution.
Maybe won't see the same map. I see a different map on collector, different
Yep.
map on navigator, different map on survey.
Right, so the question is about the maps that you're using, and there are benefits to having the same map, but there's also benefits to having different maps. So I might want in Collector to have a map that's a web map that's showing me imagery, but for Navigator, I want the road map, which is a vector-based map. So I don't necessarily always want the same map, but that's really up to your organization and the maps that you make and provide to your users. We'll also be looking at ways that the apps can all share the same map. Right now, you're kind of getting the map for each app, but there is some technology that we can make use of now that would potentially share these maps across apps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there any road that has possibility to import navigator in the collector? If I'm outside, I would like to route me via collector, not to open navigator, close navigator, come back to collector. Is it on the road?
Okay, so the question is about basically instead of having a Navigator app, why not add the navigation functionality to the other apps? That's not something that we're planning on doing. We're really trying not to overload the apps with a lot of functionality, which makes them a little more difficult to use. So we're trying to have a collection of apps that work well together, and then even as an organization or person, you can choose which apps you want to use. Maybe you only need to use one app in your organization or use all of them, not force you into using one application that's loaded with a bunch of stuff you may never use. So that's kind of the strategy that we're taking with the apps. But we do get that question. I mean, that is, we're kind of used to how, like ArcGIS Pro, you got everything in one app.
Okay, let's just kind of wrap it up, and then we can take some more questions. In that last demo, again, Mark showed us how you could make a custom map from all your own data. And again, it's important just to reiterate the testing process within Pro, packaging it up and sharing it like we've seen throughout the day. Just in summary, there's those three components of a Navigator map: search, route, and display, geocoding, locators, a network data set, and then the base map and operational layers. You can think about it as 2 data options, maybe 2.5. You can modify the Esri Navigator map either with Street Map Premium Pro or Street Map Premium Custom Roads if you're required to seamlessly route in between the two. And then you can bring your own data. BYOD, bring your own data. We do have a ton of stuff out there online. If you don't have Navigator today, there's a free trial available. You can get it. Street Map Premium help, Pro help. We have tutorials, both written tutorials with step-by-step instruction and sample data. And there's also live trainings and recorded seminars and videos that walk through all this stuff in detail. The GeoNet community, there's commonly questions, answers out there, and feel free to reach out to Mark or myself with anything should you get back to the
Yeah.
office.
And I'd like to just reiterate on that tutorial too. The tutorial basically walks you through, provides all of the data necessary to do everything that you saw me do here. It's with the city, it's the San Diego data set and has a scenario for doing routes to power line poles. It also has the append option that it talks about too. So there's some existing roads, appending them into the custom streets and fixing the typical types of errors that you'd encounter. So that's really a great place to start. And we'd love to get any feedback from you about the process and how we can all make it better.
Definitely. With that, there is a session tomorrow. Some of you asked about the field apps, how they work together. 9 o'clock. It'll really dive into how all the different apps work together, work seamlessly, can leverage each other within those workflows. Just a reminder about the survey, and thanks everybody for your time today.
Okay.